Okay, we're back. We're so glad to be back with you for another episode of
Inside the Message.
Having some fun with that.
We're having fun with that.
Yeah,
we hope
you're
you
having fun.
enjoy.
Yeah, absolutely. We hope you are too. So we are excited to be back with you, and we're going to talk about your message today, which I was really excited about. And you got into a true thought principle.
Yes,
Thoughts
sir.
are things, which to me that's like, number one.
I
really.
know.
From my studies, almost everything that we get into, certainly Course in Miracles, the Way of Mastery, that becomes the foundation for beginning to understand the power that we have. The power that we have as the energy of the Creator in action. We are the Creator. And so, as I love you said, no, there's no such thing as idle thoughts.
Yes.
They cannot exist, really,
Yes.
because thoughts are creative. I mean, and everything we're experiencing, the thoughts are creative. And so I was just really just kind of glowing in the message that you shared today, because it's gotten to the point when I hear true thought principles, it's almost like I can feel. You can feel this vibration of truth. And it's actually love, the vibration of love. So when we speak truth, and when you begin to understand and grasp it and understand the power of it, it gives you power, because it really does begin to inform and modify, and as you said, give you dominion over your thoughts. So I loved your message today. I really did.
Thank you.
And you look like you were having fun with that too.
Well, it was fun to go back and think of, it's hard to imagine that would have been a revelatory thought at that moment. I was already a Science Mind student. I was already in practitioner training, but I was kind of caught in the act, if you will, of, it was a disruptor of my story. And then, of course, becomes kind of almost like a mantra, oh yeah, I have dominion over my thoughts. And so it was just fun to kind of go back and remember that, and to honor, the woman who was in the story, Kathleen McNamara, who's now Reverend Kathleen McNamara at Agape International, who was an instrumental part of my being where I am now. And so it's kind of an honoring of her as well, to just remember the story. And I'm sure you all have individuals in your life that have just said something, just one line, one sentence that just seemed to change things. And I think even now, I was thinking about it a little bit more, go figure. Really being discriminating, really being present. So when I'm in the face of sickness, what are my thoughts about that? Are they thoughts of truth, or are they thoughts of illusion? When I'm in the face of death, what are my thoughts then? When I believe that there's been sin, or something. Somebody's guilty. What are my thoughts then? So those are the big three, everybody's sin, sickness, and death. And so, which, Emma Curtis Hopkins denied the reality of all of those things. And so in our teaching, we actually deny the reality, or we deny the power, that it has power. If we are eternal beings made in the image and likeness of God, then there's only that one power. And so it really becomes, so in the face of a pandemic, in the face of judgment of other people about how they're proceeding in a pandemic, in the face of individuals transitioning, and shuffling off the mortal coil, what are my thoughts in those moments? And then what are my stories? What am I saying about those things? Because that will reveal what my thought and belief system is. So it's really a cornerstone foundational element of what we teach.
Right. One of the things that when we started our ministry, we and I like to say we were given, because I don't know that I do have any original thoughts, but the point is that our tagline was no thought required. So true thought, spiritual community, no thought required. And we still use that from time to time, especially in conversation, because really when we began to play the game of separation, then we were separating ourselves from the thoughts of God. And the thoughts of God are the only thoughts, because we are one with that mind. So the only thoughts that ever existed in our experience prior to this game of separation were the thoughts of God, which were all thoughts of love, and then thoughts of creation, right? And it's flowing through us. We're like the conduit of it. And when we separated, there was no thought. There was nothing. And so that void, had needed to be filled, because suddenly what we were, I don't want to say the word used to, but I guess that's what fits. But, what we had experienced up until that very instant were the constant loving thoughts, the energy, if you will, of God, the will of God. And as soon as we separated ourselves, then there's nothing. And so we created this thinking self, this thinking mind, just like we create the sleeping self at night, and it has all of its thoughts. And so as you were sharing your message this morning, I was thinking about that sleeping self, and how it does it realize that it's the thinker of all the people that are in our dreams. They're actually expressing our thoughts. They're really not there. We're projecting them and then giving them thoughts. But it seems like we're having, conversations with people that are with us in our dreams, but they're all our thoughts, And it's really kind of weird when you start realizing how powerful the mind is. Yeah, it really is.
It is. And, I think of the stories that we have, and they are Bible stories. But we were many of us were raised on them. A lot of us weren't, but they're kind of in our culture. And so when I think of even the Garden of Evil, or the Garden of Eden, not the Garden of Evil, Garden of Eden, this place of heaven and all needs met, and then the directive, don't eat of the tree of knowledge, but really it was the tree of knowledge of good and evil, of duality. And, so we are in a duality experience.
Absolutely.
And so therefore I love when the Course in Miracles said, they're not good or they're not really good or evil. They're not big or small. They're not powerful or weak. They're just either true or false. I'm just like, yeah. And I think that when people hear, only think the thoughts of God, that it sounds boring, or what about my personality?
Okay.
How will I be creative? How will I have my unique expression? But what I hope to get across was that, no, actually that is when you get your identity back and your creativity back. And it expresses in multiple ways, and diversity is included in it. It's all like this... these shards of all that is, that expresses in infinite number of ways.
Well, when you talked about having dominion over our thoughts, my first experience of that was because I had really pulled away from church altogether for a long time, and what brought me back to it was a teaching that I had gotten from Vernon Howard, and some of you might know Vernon Howard, but anyway.
Who's Vernon Howard?
Long since passed, but he was basically a philosopher.
Okay.
But he was basically teaching the tenets of Buddhism. But the thing that caught me, right, which was similar to your expression of having dominion over your thoughts, is the very first thing that really stuck with me and hit home and brought me literally firmly. Once I was all in after I got that one, right, and it was the idea of being present. Right? And we have to be present in order to be in connection and communion and union and relationship, if you will, with our higher self, our right mind. And so I was trying to figure that out, right? And I think that was about, it was almost 30 years ago now, but certainly 25. Wow. And so I was washing my car, and I'm out washing my car, hand washing I had gotten a new car, and I was out washing the tire, and I'm down on all fours, and I'm washing this tire, and I'm trying to think, what is being present? What is being present? And suddenly I realized I'm having an intimate moment with my tire. Wow. It was that moment of being present, and I still remember it right now today. It was a teaching moment where I was being reached I feel by Spirit. And this was teaching me and showing me, and suddenly it was a knowing. It wasn't something that I understood. It was something I instantly began to know. Being present is having dominion over your thoughts. So they're still there, but they move to the background, and I'm suddenly in this now moment. And in this now moment, I can become aware of what is existing now in this very present, as Jesus says, you know, always things are always, love is always being made new. You know, God is everything is always being made new. In this very instant, everything that was just an instant ago has already changed. And we can't even go back to it. But this is fresh, this is new, and in every moment. So the spiritual journey for me, in that very first thing of thoughts or things, was that I began to realize that there was this thought of being present, and it changed my life. That very first idea of, you know, thoughts or things began to change my life.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So I just want to share that with you.
I'm so glad you did. I love that story.
Yeah.
I love that story. Thanks for sharing it.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited because I already know where we're going to go next. But we're not going to let the cat out of the bag.
Okay,
yet.
we
But
won't do
there's,
that.
but there's, you know, these all work together.
They do. Oh,
And
perfectly.
when Tony and I were talking about this, you know, it's like, I don't know, we did like 4 messages. And I think during those messages, before yours and then mine, so number 5 and week 6, you know, we were really looking at our identity. You know, that we are as God created us.
Word.
And yes, and so now we kind of did that for several weeks, but this is still a continuation of that. You know, where you brought in word, and then I brought in this dominion over our thoughts. Thoughts are things. And so where we're going to go next is kind of a continuation of the unfoldment of we are as God created us, and what the implication of that is, and what the true thought principles are connected with that. So stay tuned for, you'll probably start that conversation, I'm thinking.
I've been having it already. So.
I know.
So we're going to have a lot of fun. but thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
And thank you for a beautiful message.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can add comments here on our, you know, inside the message. You can have questions, and we'll start addressing those.
Yeah.
Yeah, because this gives us a chance to respond to you.
Sure.
As well.
Yeah, we'll start responding. And we're always, you know, we're really just getting started. And
Yeah.
so we'll be developing ways for us to interact and connect
You bet.
directly.
So like and share if you will. Click the bell, and that way you'll get a notification of when we, you know, post another message here on True Thought YouTube channel. And we just love you. God bless you. And thanks so much for being
Love
with
ya.
us. We'll see you next week.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.